I am so excited for this video because it is currently my favorite time of year. And now I know you're thinking like, oh yeah, Christmas is coming. That's great. And although I do love Christmas, I'm actually talking about goal setting season. I love the holidays and all of the fun that it brings, but my favorite time of year is the goal setting, planning, getting life situated kind of time. So that, like, especially for me, it's like in between Christmas and New Year's is when I go like really hard, and it's just the best. It's so much fun. So if you're here, it's probably because you want some help with figuring out maybe what your goals should be for your TPT shop. And if that's you, then I got you, because you know, it's my thing. I love it. And also, did you know I have a whole other YouTube channel where we talk goals like all year long? It's always goal setting season over there on Becca Davis Vlogs. I'll link it down below. But it's a lot more like behind the scenes goal setting stuff and all of that. So let's chit chat about how you can figure out what your TPT goals should be, and also how you're actually gonna accomplish that, because that's part a lot of people forget, is like the how we're actually gonna do it part, which is actually the most important part, because if you don't know what you're gonna do, that's not very helpful. So let's get into it. Go find, you know, a nice cup of coffee in a very vibey mug, or, you know, tea, water, whatever, notebook. All of those things are great. And let's chat goals. Okay, first of all, before we get into the actual video, I do want to mention that there is a free goal setting worksheet that you can download. I will link it down below, and it is all about kind of like how to figure out your goal setting and reviewing your year and all those things that we're going to talk about here in this video. So when it comes to goal setting, the first thing you want to do is review this year. We're talking yearly goals, by the way. You can do this at any point. If you want to do like a quarter situation, look at the last quarter, look at the next quarter. If you want to do a year, look at last year, look at next year. So whatever time frame you're going for, we're going to start by looking at the last time frame. So in this case, what happened in this past year? Specifically, if you had goals, did you hit those goals? The answer might be yes, the answer might be no. Either way, it gives you really important data that we'll get back to in a second. You'll also want to look at things like what things went well, what things were you proud of, what did you accomplish this year, and also what things didn't go so well, what things that you might want to work on in the coming year. So let's break those things down just a little bit. Actually, I like to start with what things went well, because, you know, it's just nice to start things off on a positive note. So ask yourself and make a whole list of what things went well this year. What accomplishments did you do? Did you break an income record? Did you create a new product line? Did you get a new job? Did you, you know, not lose your mind every single day of your life? Because, you know, regulating your emotions is one of those things that they really don't talk about after you turn like 5, and wow, it is hard sometimes, but it's a big accomplishment. Did you read a lot of books this year? Like, anything goes. Just if you're proud of it, if it's something you think you accomplished this year, write it down on your piece of paper, what things went well. I also like to note kind of like what things I want to bring into the next year. So if I'm like proud that I read more books this year, then I want to make sure that I'm reading more books next year as well. So just really thinking through, like, as you're writing, what are things I want to keep doing next year, or was this just kind of like a one-off? After we go through all of those things, then we should talk about those goals you set last year. Now, obviously this means that you had to have set goals for last year for this to make any sense, but assuming you did, go through those. Hello. May I help you? So go through your goals from last year and see what the goal was. Did you hit it, and why or why not? This might feel a little bit weird, and it might make you feel a little sad if there's some things on there that you wanted to do that you didn't get done. But the important thing is not to judge yourself and be like, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person because I didn't do X, Y, Z. But just to think, like, realistically, looking at the data, like the non-emotional data, what are the things that you actually did or didn't do, and why? So for example, I know that one of my goals was an income goal that I did not come close to. Like, I'm filming this quite a while in advance. It's like early November, and I already know I'm not coming close to the income goal that I set for myself this year. And so I can look at that and I can be like, you know, down on myself and beat myself up. Or I can say, okay, why? And then I can figure out the why, and that can help me propel myself from next year. Some of those things are things that I controlled, and some of those things are things I didn't control. And so in looking at that specifically, like I know that there's a lot of outside factors with algorithm changes and with inflation and with just so many things that were not in my control. And so it's important to note those, but also look at the things that were in your control. Is it like, should I have focused on different things? Were the products I was making the products that are actually making me money? Was I not looking at the data? Like, what are those things that you're doing or not doing that are contributing to that? Okay. Okay, another one of my goals is I always have a reading goal, and my goal this year is to read, I think it was 36 books, and I think I actually just hit that yesterday or 2 days ago. I just finished a book. It's called The Girl from Portofino. It's about World War II in Italy. I just hit my 36 books, and again, it's early November, which means I'm gonna like blow that out of the wire, because I should hit at least 40, maybe even more, because you know, the last few weeks of December I don't have school, and so I might actually get things done. Although the first 2 weeks of December are absolute madness for elementary music teachers, so I won't be reading anything those weeks, I already know. So whether you hit it or whether you didn't hit it, it's important to look at that and see why. Some of those whys might be things like, oh, it's because I didn't put enough time into it, or it might be that you didn't care. Because sometimes at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, but you don't care enough to actually make it happen, and you don't realize it until you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh, I didn't do that. And you're not mad that you didn't do it. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And those are important to note too, because if you didn't care, don't put it on the list for next year, because you know, it's not that important. After you finish reviewing your past year with the little guide that I have for you on the freebie that's linked down below, then we're gonna talk about what you want this year. I don't want you to just pick something random. Now, also here, we're talking mostly like business money goals, because that's what this TPT channel is about. This TPT channel, this YouTube channel. The principles apply to anything, just FYI, if you're like, wow, you're talking a lot about money, this is why. So business, money, but also anything else. So this next year, when you're trying to decide like, what should I do? Don't pick things at random. So this is not, oh, I should post 3 times a day on Instagram. Okay, why? Or even worse, I want to grow to this many followers on Instagram. Okay, why? Like, what is that going to help you accomplish? What is your reasoning behind it? If you have a great reason, awesome. If you don't have a great reason though, then it's kind of like, but what is the point? Or same thing with money. If you just pick a random number out of the sky, it doesn't really help. What you want to do instead is you want to really think about what you personally want. So in this case, especially when it comes to money, when I'm trying to decide what I want, like money-wise next year, I like to think in terms of what do I want to accomplish? What do I want my life to look like? And then kind of breaking it down that way. So what do I want to accomplish money-wise? So if I'm investing, if I'm paying off debt, like whatever, figuring out how much that means I need to make each month, and making that the goal, because then you have something that is tied to something specific. Maybe it's that you want to like go on a trip and you need a certain amount of money for that trip. And so every month, if you can save a certain amount of money, then you can go on the trip, which means you have to make a certain amount of money in order to save a certain amount of money. So those are things to think about, not just pulling random numbers out of the sky, but like actually being tactical of like, how is this gonna help me in my life? Because when you tie it to something in your life, then you actually care. Same thing with anything else. If you want to lose weight, why do you want to lose weight? Like, have a good reason and have a specific reason behind what you're doing in order to actually make changes that count and make yourself want to do them. Or again, you're gonna get to the end of the year and be like, oh, I didn't do that because I didn't actually care. Okay. Okay. Money wise, once you figure out, okay, this is where I want to be, here's where I am, we got to find a way to bridge that gap. So in TPT land, there's a couple of different ways that you can increase that. And again, well, I'll bring this to another example, non-money example in a second. But money-wise, think, here's where I want to be. Here's where I currently am. I need to bridge that gap. How do I bridge that gap? There's 3 main ways that you can bridge that gap. So let's talk the 3 main ways you can bridge the gap, and then I'll tell you my 3 favorite ways to bridge said gap. So the different ways that you can do that are making products, increasing conversions, or increasing traffic. Okay? Okay, so how to do this is you can make new products, hopefully products that are actually gonna do well. Look at your data, make sure that you're making products that are going to sell well. So like look pay attention, do those things that are already working for you. If a product is on the first page of your bestsellers, it's probably a product that's gonna sell well. So you can make a similar product this time. So make good, high quality products that are actually going to sell, one, and that will help you increase your revenue, because if you have more products, then there's more opportunities for people to buy. Obviously, these are not guarantees, but just, you know, logically, these are things you can do. Number 2 is you can increase your conversion rate. Your conversion rate is how many people land on your product and then actually purchase. In conversion rate land, typically between 3 to 9% is where you want to aim for TPT. If your products are more expensive, they're gonna be on the lower end of that. If your products are less expensive, they're gonna be on the higher end of that, which means for every 100 people, about 9 are gonna purchase. So if your conversion rate on a $3 product is only 3%, then if you can get that up to 9%, you're going to make a lot more money because your conversion rate has increased. In order to do that, you can work on your product listing page. So that is your preview, your product thumbnails, your description. Those are the things that help you to get more people converted, because those are people landing on your product and then deciding whether or not they're going to purchase. If you convince more people to buy, then your conversion rate is going to be higher. Now, if your conversion rate is really high and you have a good amount of data, like at least 500 views, and your conversion rate is really high, it's, you know, 20% or it's 30%, even with a lot of views, then you might want to think about increasing your price, because that's just a lot, which means that that typically means that people would be willing to pay a little bit more. I don't like increasing the price by a lot, and so typically if I'm gonna increase the price, I'll just do like 25 or 50 cents. See how that goes, wait a few months, and then if the conversion rate is still ridiculously high, then I might increase it a little bit more until you kind of find the sweet spot of where people are. I don't love increasing my prices. That's not my favorite way to make money. It's probably my least favorite way to make money. So just be aware of that as you're doing it. That doesn't, like, you don't have to, but that is an option if your conversion rate is super high. If your conversion rate is really low, then your job is going to be to increasing that conversion rate. If you know, especially if it's like 1%, 2%, we would like it to go up, because the higher your conversion rate, more people are actually purchasing your products. And the third way that you could increase your revenue is by increasing your traffic. So if you send more people to your TPT store, then that's going to help you to, you know, make more money. So in order to increase your traffic, that is where you want to go to a couple things. Number 1 is SEO, aka search engine optimization, which means that you have keywords in your description and in your title that people are searching for. Your cover also goes into this, because when people search on TPT, they see your title, the first 3 lines of your description, and the cover. And those are the 3 things that are helping them decide whether or not to click on your product. So looking at those 3 things will help you to see whether it's, you know, worth it to actually click on your product or not. In addition to that, my favorite way to do traffic, of course, is with content marketing. So marketing in general is going to help increase your traffic, but I love content because it's like a long-term sustainable way to increase your traffic. I like things that pay me dividends over and over and over. So for example, I make this video, you can watch this video in, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years or however long YouTube is here. That's a good long-term source of income, instead of, you know, something that goes out for a little bit and then never again. So I like content marketing. Content marketing is blogs, YouTubes, and also YouTube and podcasts. Blog and YouTube are my jam personally, but using like blog posts and videos that will help promote your products is one of the best ways to increase your traffic, as well as just, you know, get the word out about you. You can also increase your traffic with Pinterest, with email marketing, with paid ads. All of those things will help increase your traffic. So those are the 3 ways that you can kind of increase your income. I don't recommend you being like, I'm gonna do all the things. Instead, I would recommend maybe you pick one. Oh, you're gonna brush my hair? Thank you. That was so sweet and super weird. When it comes to deciding which route you're gonna go in order to increase your income, I would not suggest trying to do all of them right now. I would instead pick 1 or maybe 2 things to work on right now, and then maybe in this quarter 2, you work on something else. Then maybe a few months later, you work on something else. And then you can increase your store and its value as time goes on, just a little bit at a time. Now, those are the 3 general ways that you can do this. My 3 favorite ways to increase revenue are those things, but like more specific. So my 3 favorite ways to increase, and we'll do 3, 2, 1. So start with my 3rd favorite way. My 3rd favorite way is to increase my conversion rate, specifically with updating my listing page, specifically with making sure I have a preview and that preview is good. So preview and thumbnails are the main things I look at when it comes to conversions. Those are the 2 main things that I look at, because those are the 2 main things that frankly I think buyers look at. For both of those, I like to use actual photos if possible. Screenshots are okay. And then I do text over top to explain some of the key details and important things and really help convince people to purchase my products. Number 2 best way to create that income is by writing blog posts, also doing videos. I always do a blog post and a video at the same time because it's like a 2 for 1, because I already figured out what the blog post was gonna say. So now it only takes me a few minutes to like film a video real quick. And based on my data, the blog makes me more money than the YouTube channel does. So we've got that going for us too. But having the blog post makes a huge difference. And so when I have something that I want to make sure that people are purchasing, I will typically make a blog post just about that product. And I will also make a blog post, or 2, or even 3, that has that product included in like a roundup of sorts, or some kind of guide. So a guide to teaching centers, where we're going to talk about some of my favorite centers, or a roundup of here are my 5 favorite ways to use, or my 5 favorite centers activities, or those kind of things. So we can talk about the centers game, then we can talk about my favorite centers activities. We can talk about a guide to centers. We can talk about classroom management with centers and use my product as an example all the way through the blog post. Those are all ways that I can sell my same resource without like saying the same thing over and over and over again. So it's like coming at a different way, still providing value, but also promoting my resource, because the more people see it, the more likely they will actually purchase it. Research says people need to see something like 8 times before they purchase it. And I have to say, it's true. Upstairs, I had Invisalign when I was in high school / college. And so I wear a retainer every night. Fun fact, they don't tell you when you get it, you gotta wear a retainer for like the rest of your life. I was like, I asked the receptionist, I was like, so how long do I have to wear the retainer? I thought like, you know, a year or 2. And she was like, until you don't care what your teeth look like anymore. I was like, what? Like, it's such a ripoff. Anyway, so I wear a retainer every night and it gets gunky, and there's this new, like, I think it's called like a dental pod. It's like a little ultrasonic thing. It's like this big, and you put water in it and you put your retainer in it, and it like shakes and it cleans your retainer, and it is magical. And y'all, I must have looked at that thing like 20 times before I actually finally purchased it. Because if you see it once, you're like, oh, that's cool. See it twice, like, huh, maybe that's interesting. But it takes a lot of times to see it till you actually purchase it and actually pull that trigger. So don't feel weird about talking about the same thing over and over and over. Like, don't write the same blog post 8 times, but mention it in many a blog post, okay? Okay, so that's my top 2 favorite way to increase my income. And if you are looking for more blogging help, I actually have a brand new blogging masterclass talking about the different types of blogs that you can write to help sell your resources. Comes with a couple freebies, so I will link that down below. It is like, I just posted it. It was my TPT forward presentation from this year, which was one of my goals, so that was exciting too. And my top #1 way to increase my income is to increase my email list. Were you expecting that? I feel like the answer is no. I feel like you probably thought blogging was my favorite, but nope, the best is email. And here is why. If I write an email to 1 person, or I write an email to 100 people, or I write an email to 100,000 people, it's the same amount of work on my end. I don't have to do anything extra. But if I send it to 100,000 people and 10% of them buy, I make a lot more money than if I send it to 100 people and 10% of them buy. Now, I don't have 100,000 people on my email list, but I do have some people, and that is one of the best things, because you're doing the same amount of work, but you're getting more profit. So if you have an email list and you're looking to increase your revenue, that's a great way to do it. If you don't have an email list, you should. Like really, like right now, like go find one of my videos about how to start an email list and get to it, because it is important. So anyway, get an email list because it is the best way to make more money. Personal opinion. Maybe we need an email course. That would be fun. Let me know if you're interested in an email course, because email is very important and very helpful and very great. So email is the very best thing. The very best thing, because you do the same amount of work. How I like to increase my email, by the way, is having specific freebies that are good, that people are willing to get on your email list to get that freebie. Having good emails so that people don't want to leave your email list, because that's a big thing. And also like and then promoting freebies and your email list all over the place. So I have blog posts about my freebies. I have Instagram things about my freebies. I've been trying, I haven't done this every week, but I've been trying to do like one a week of like promoting my freebie on Instagram so that I can increase that email list, because I'm sure that all the people on my Instagram are not the same people on my email list. So having content, having Instagram posts, having Twitter posts, whatever they call Twitter now, I don't know, Pinterest, all those things can send people to your email list, and then you just send the email you're gonna send anyway, but it reaches a lot more people. So we like that. Okay, so those are the couple of steps that you can take to figure out what your goals are going to be for TPT. If you want some more help, I actually have a goal setting mini course. It's not expensive. It's short, because my goal is that you finish it quickly and actually get your goals written and done and situated, and it will really help you like plan out next year. We have like a whole money planning situation, so definitely go and check that one out. I will leave it linked down below. It is only open in December and the beginning of January, so if you're watching this some other time, that's why you can't get into it. But if you're watching it in December or beginning of January, then you can get into it. So I will see you over there, and I would love to hear what your goals are. So if you're still watching, hit me up over at becca.e.davis on Instagram and let me know what your goals are. Let me know what your focus is for this year. I'm so excited for you. Goal setting is my favorite. It makes me so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna do all the things, and as long as you actually do those things, then you're doing pretty well. So let's hop to it. Yeah, have a great time.